So we're about 122 days into the second Trump administration, which I heard characterized today as a regime of corruption, chaos, and cruelty. And if you are somebody who is empathetic and who values kindness and compassion and so forth, then it's the cruelty that is really the hardest part. The hardest part to bear witness to, the hardest part to try and understand, to empathize with, frankly. And I was talking with a friend about this the other day, about the deportations without due process, sending people to gulags, taking away healthcare from children and seniors and poor people, scapegoating the most marginalized, taking away agencies that protect people like FEMA and research into cancer and all this kind of stuff. The list is practically endless, and they seem again to be policies that are designed to inflict the most amount of suffering. I was talking with a friend about this, and they said, well, if you don't understand this, you don't understand how people could be so cruel, then that's probably a good thing. You should be grateful. That means you haven't lost your humanity, you haven't lost your heart. And I do think that is something that happens to people who accumulate too much wealth, too much power, billionaires and so forth. And one can say, well, ask the question whether it's because they were sociopathic to begin with, and that allowed them to become billionaires, or whether they became billionaires and then became sociopathic. I think it's actually a little bit of both. I think it's that our system rewards this kind of sociopathy. But if you have a curious mind and want to know a little bit more, dig a little bit deeper philosophically, or if you have a heart that really wants to empathize with people who don't seem to have empathy and have compassion for people who don't seem to have compassion, if you really want to try and relate to them, the best that I can do, or what I've been thinking about lately, is religion. And I am not the first person to say this by any means. In fact, either on this app or in history, I'm reminded of a quotation that I heard years ago, and I can't remember who it was by, but the closest I could find online was G.K. Chesterton, who said a lot of great things over the years, by the way, who said, essentially, tell me about your God, your highest value, and I would tell you what you value in the world. And this is how it works, worldviews or cosmologies are basically top down. Whatever your belief about God or the universe is, you will see that translated into other areas of your life. So when we look around and we see all this cruelty either being perpetrated or accepted, or in some cases even reveled in by people who call themselves Christians, perhaps it's not surprising when we look and see that their God is cruel, and that he's wrathful, and he's vengeful, and he's capricious, and he's mean, and he is jealous. He's been called by many people a total asshole, and by others as an evil asshole, because he dares to punish people eternally for finite crimes, the worst of which is to not believe in him or worship him correctly. So this is one way of understanding it. Of course, people will say, well, what about the Christian God who preaches love, kindness, forgiveness, etc.? Well, my comment to that is that you shall know them by their fruits, right? I live in a nominally Christian country, supposedly Christian country, and I've met very few real Christians in my entire life, and I often use Christian, that I live in a Christian country and I'm surrounded by Christians. I don't really see Christianity being played out around me. I see a lot of anti-Christian behavior, frankly. So that's one way to explain it, is through this lens of religion. Of course, there's other things that have to do with brain chemistry and all this. But if you live in this kind of religious setting through your whole life, you're kind of primed for this. You're kind of primed for authoritarianism. Perhaps your father was an authoritarian figure and so forth. But so much of it goes back to this root. How do you believe the universe came into being, and who's in charge here? And if you believe that God is a cruel asshole, you're going to like cruel assholes. Or maybe you're just the kind of person who says, fuck it, I'm never going to understand it. Good for you.